I'm doing something a little different because I normally don't talk about my personal life as much. I know I've come on here and I've talked about my divorce and birthing story, but so I guess I do some personal things. But today is another personal thing that happened in my life. I think everybody had a pretty difficult time last year, 2020. If something bad didn't happen to you, what's your secret? I think we have had several Zoom funerals and something happening to somebody we know or cared about that was kind of traumatic. But one in particular thing that happened to me personally was my dad. And if anybody knows my dad personally, knows that he is just this funny, outgoing person who is always trying to help and make sure everybody else is okay. And so last year, on the exact day of October 12th, he was rushed to the hospital. And he suffered 2 major strokes. So I think that's a day that I will just never forget. You know, I was here at work and I was working on my client, and my husband came and asked me, you know, how much longer I had to go because he had something important to tell me. Now, initially, when he told me my dad was rushed to the hospital, at the time, my parents were doing this lemonade diet. And I think they were on like their 9th day. And his plan was to do 15 days. So my mom told me that he wasn't drinking the lemonade mix as often as he should have been. So I assumed he probably is hungry, he's dehydrated, you know, and at that particular day, he had went to do a side job with one of his friends, and I know he was working outside, you know, doing some construction work. So my guess was he was dehydrated and he probably passed out from the heat, and, you know, he just needed to eat something. So I wasn't initially worried until we kept trying to call a hospital and they couldn't find my dad. They were like, we don't have this patient here. So, you know, naturally we started getting worried, like, okay, well, where is he? What's happening? What's going on? And then, so we finally got the call from the doctor saying that he suffered a stroke, and I guess he had been suffering it from like 2 maybe that afternoon, and he didn't get to the hospital until around 7. So if anybody's in the medical field knows that, you know, you have like a really short window as far as treatment with a stroke. I believe they usually try to give TPA to stop the clog in the brain, get it flowing again. And he missed that window. So his friend initially just thought that the medication that my dad was previously taking for depression was just kind of making him tired, and that's why he was moving a little slower than normal. So he just told him to rest. And, you know, my dad did say he wasn't feeling good, but they just thought, again, it was just heat and mixture of medication. So they just had him sitting down, and he was still trying to work because my dad is such a hard worker. He usually doesn't quit. He just tries to push through things like most typical men, and he was just still trying to work and help his friend out. So long story short, he got to the hospital. Actually, it's not a long story short because I'm going to keep talking about it. So he got to the hospital, and they did a surgery to try to stop the blockage. And I think they attempted 3 times, but they couldn't get the full blockage out. But he was stable. So he's in the hospital, and of course COVID is happening, so we can't all just go to the hospital and see him. But the next day, they let us know that we can see him, but only one person for that day can see him, so I let my mom go. So I drove my mom to the hospital. We're both hysterical. I think she was holding up a little better than I was. I was a complete mess. I was a mess. I was crying my eyes out, thought my dad was gonna die. You know, I just lost it. So I drove my mom to the hospital. My mom was able to see him, and his eyes was open. He was looking at her, you know, and she was, you know, talking to him, letting him know that, you know, everything's gonna be okay. I'm here for you. I love you. All that jazz. And it seemed like, you know, things were gonna be okay. But there was some technician, maybe, I don't know if it was a nurse or somebody, that was talking to my mom and was telling her about his brain damage that he had. And she was kind of rude about it. And she was just like, you see the brain? It's damaged, 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 damaged. Everything is just damaged. I'd like to see this nurse or whoever she was and talk to her and ask her about why she talks to people this way. But anyway, so he was able to squeeze my mom's hand. He had movement on both sides. The right side was a little weaker, but he still had movement in it. So thinking everything's okay, we get a call the next morning, and during that night he suffered another major stroke on the other side of the brain. And they don't know how long he's been suffering for that one, because it was during the middle of the night. I guess no alarms go off in the middle of the night. Maybe they didn't detect it, or they didn't know. So they didn't know until they saw some scans the next morning, realized he suffered another stroke. So this time he had no movement whatsoever on the right side at all. He couldn't feel, he couldn't move it, nothing on that side. And his left side was just very light movement. So he was hooked up to a ventilator, a feeding tube. I had never seen my dad in this position ever. You know, he's always been like my Superman. Whew. He's just been like always a strong guy, you know. So to see him in that position just broke my heart. I just knew at that moment I was gonna lose my dad and he was gonna die. So I got to see him, but it was like he noticed me when I came in. You know, he couldn't talk, he couldn't, I mean, he was just laying there, you know. So, but it was good to see him. It was good to see that he did recognize me when I came in, and I got to see him and visit him for a while. So he was in the hospital from August 12th to November 15th. So constantly every day, one of us was going up there to see him. It was either my mom, me, or my husband. Kids, of course, couldn't go. Other friends wanted to see him, but because of the coronavirus, it was literally only one person per day. So whatever person went to go see him that day, if they left, that was the only person that could come back to see him. And we didn't really want to put my dad in a position to be seen, you know, by his friends, because I mean, he was at a very vulnerable state, you know, where he had to be changed, and I know that could be very embarrassing and everything for him. So as the weeks went on, he started to show some progress. You know, he was able to of course move his left side, his left side, of course he could move. And then they did some tests to see if he could swallow. So they wanted to see if he would be able to swallow his food if they took the feeding tube out. My dad loves food, as I do. So I could tell initially, like, he wanted that feeding tube out. And he wanted to drink something, he wanted to eat something, he just wanted something solid. And the swallow technician came in to see if he could swallow. And that was the first time he spoke something. And this stroke also, it affected his memory, his speech, and his movement. So all the way around, he's just a different person now. So he can't, you know, talk. They said that the voice is still there, but for the brain to remember how to talk, that part has kind of been damaged. Now the brain is wonderfully made, so you know that it can reconnect, you know, to a certain extent. So they did the swallow test, and the first time he spoke something, she asked him if he wanted some more water. He cleared his throat and said, yeah. That's just how thirsty I think he was. So needless to say, he passed the swallow test, and they took the feeding tube out, and he was able to eat. So that was the first part of his, I believe, his recovery. And the physical therapist there, the occupational therapist, and even the speech therapist, they just loved my dad. They kept telling us, he's our favorite patient. We love working with him. He never tells us no. He is a fighter. He keeps going, and he always wants to do more. And that's what they like, especially in their line of field. You know, they want to see people get better, and they want to see people fight to try to get better. And they said that's what my dad did. Now, I just personally thought they were just saying that to, you know, make us feel good, but they're like, no, seriously, he's our favorite patient. We love working with him. So that was nice to hear. And so when he was originally scheduled to come home, they actually fought to keep him there another week, because they knew that they could try to get him into ability where he didn't have to go into like a living facility to be taken care of, that my mom would be able to take care of him at home. So So they fought to keep him another week, and that's what they did. And so he made tremendous progress, able to stand, able to take a few steps, not a lot of steps, and really not really steps, but maybe like a step. His right leg started to have some movement, so they were able to give him a brace for his leg to keep it straight and to keep it a little stable, because it's like he doesn't believe that his right side is there, or his brain doesn't recognize it. But he started to get movement in his right leg, which was awesome. His arm was still, he couldn't move it, but he started to feel it, and they said that that was a good sign. So he started to feel, at least on his right side, and acknowledge his right side. So he comes home and he's excited. He doesn't really recognize anything. You know, he's crying. He doesn't know where he is. And that's always sad to see, you know, your dad cry or in an emotional state, because, you know, he doesn't remember things. But as he got home, things seemed like it took a turn for the worse. He started, I felt like, going down. He was angry at first, and then he just became sad and very quiet. And he just wasn't himself. You could just see, like, my dad, he just wasn't there. And it was like he didn't remember us. I would ask him, do you know who I am? And, you know, he would just shake his head no, and he would look sad, like, I think I should know you, but I don't. You know, he wouldn't remember my mom. My mom would tell him, I'm your wife, you know, this is our daughter. We had her, you know, these are your grandkids. And he would just look like, I don't know any of y'all. And that would make him cry, and that would make us cry. But my mom is such, gonna make me cry. She is such a strong woman. She has been taking care of my dad the best she could, and she's just done such a wonderful job. So fast forward to today. So today my dad can actually feed himself. He can move his fingers on his right hand, not like this, but, you know, a little bit. He definitely feels it, and he can walk by himself. So he uses a cane, and he could take a few steps. So my mom will have him walk from the bedroom to the dining room table to eat, and then back whenever he's done. So he's not doing like a whole lot of walking, like walking around the neighborhood, but I foresee in the near future we're gonna get him there. So we're gonna do some more practice with him walking, and some arm exercises to get his right arm moving again, and maybe getting him outside to do some more exercises. So the good news is that, you know, he's alive, and he's recovering, he's getting better. So they say like the first 6 months to a year is when you see like great progress or great recovery things. So we're definitely working with them. So, you know, they have all these programs. People say, oh, they have programs for, you know, people who may not have insurance, or people who may not have a lot of money. And that's true. They have those programs. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, my dad did not qualify for any of them. So the first thing I did, he doesn't have insurance. He hasn't been working for some time, and he gets a retirement check. It's very small. So the first thing I did was to apply him for Medicaid. So he did get Medicaid, which is great, but then Medicaid also doesn't cover a lot of stuff. So we were thinking he was gonna get like a full ride when it came to like physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. And they only covered 4 sessions. After those 4 sessions, we would have to pay out of pocket. And my parents don't have money like that. I wish I did. So the group, or where he was gonna ask the insurance company for more sessions that he can get, because he needed it. I mean, he literally can't do anything for himself. So we haven't heard back from them, but they used up the 4 appointments, and then, you know, of course he hasn't been back, but we've been working with him at home. And so my husband helped him to apply for disability. You know, of course, the doctors were like, yes, he's clearly disabled. He can't work, and he can't do anything. So he's disabled. So he's qualified disabled, but he was denied any disability income because the last 5 years he hasn't worked. Even though he's worked from the time he was 18 to almost 60, he doesn't qualify to get anything. So he has no income with that either. And then my mom is not able to work now because she has to take care of him full time. And then backstory, a few years ago, before my dad had the stroke, their house caught fire. So they have a piece of house, really. It's never really been put back together because they haven't had the funds. So it's half functioning. For the longest, they were washing dishes in their bathroom. And I've done much as I can to help piece back the house. So the kitchen is more functional now. They do have a sink in there and they're able to do dishes in there. They finally got a stove where they can cook in the stove. And they got cabinets in there, but somebody messed them over with their cabinets. We're not even gonna go into that one. And somebody was so generous to actually donate floors for the entire house. So a group of some friends and my husband did some of the house, and then my husband has to go over there whenever he gets time to do the other rooms as he gets an opportunity. So that has really been such a big help. So people have been very generous with that. So the only thing is now is like there's a lot of things that doesn't really function well with someone in my dad's condition, with the house. So the whole point of this video was to just ask for your generosity. I did open up a GoFundMe for my parents to help them with their current conditions. And to also, if you have tips or if you know anybody in that field, or if anybody is watching this that's in that field, that can give us tips on how to help him with his physical therapy, speech, and occupational therapy, on different things we could do at home since he's unable to go to the actual facility because they can't afford it, and unfortunately neither can I. So that would just be greatly helpful, and we appreciate everybody's prayers and thoughts and kind deeds that they've been helping with my parents. So I'm gonna be able to show some clips and some videos of my dad when he's able, walking, and just how he is today, and his spirits are a lot better. He did suffer from depression before this. It doesn't seem like he has that case or that issue now. My daughter's over here talking. And so yeah, so I'll be able to show those clips, and thanks for watching. Thanks for being here and listening to me rant about my lovely daddy, and I miss him. I love him so much, and I'm just glad that he's still here, and I can't wait till the near future when I know when all the bad that we see now is going to be reversed. So bye guys, thanks again for watching.
I love
you.